Okay, I think we can start. So, good morning to everybody to this media session. Welcome to the journalists that joined us online. I'm Alessio Pisanò, I'm the European journalist, and we are here today to talk about two important studies promoted by the Luigi Einaudi Foundation and the European Liberal Forum on two very important and current topics, talking about energy, electricity, and gas. PPA, which stands for Power Purchase Agreement, and REC, Renewable Energy Community. I don't want to take it longer. I wanted to give you the chance to the journalists connected remotely to ask questions to Simona Benedettini.
Research on these two topics, but I mean the motivation is quite simple in the sense that the European Commission put a lot of emphasis in the adoption of long-term contracts to develop renewable projects like PPAs, and this actually emphasis is also put in the recent proposal of reform of the electricity market design approved recently by the EU Council. And the motivation is that this kind of contracts allows both parties to manage better than other tools. I mean, what are the risks concerning actually the purchase and selling of electricity, and represents a natural, how can I say, edging tool, for renewable projects. So we would try to understand how the legislation actually in place is working in order to understand whether there are barriers to be solved in the set of countries that we address in the research. And also, we would like to identify best practices in order actually to allow the EU policymaker to understand what is actually the state of the art across some European countries, in the light also of the very challenging decarbonization targets that the European Union set for 2030. And the same motivation are the basis for the research on energy communities, which still, looks at the barriers and best practices, but, energy communities share a further characteristics, which is very important, that is to allow the participation of citizens, small, medium-sized firms, and in general, of local communities, and which on one side improve the social acceptability of renewable projects and energy infrastructure in general, but overall makes the energy transition a process which is actually inclusive and more affordable, for citizens.
Thanks very much. Renata, you want to add something to the studies that have been done?
Yeah, I would like to add that this is that it was a real new research, because the idea was to compare some core countries, for example, Germany and Italy, and other non-core, let's say, so other new countries, which were for the best practice very important to explain how the model would work. So the idea was really to try to convince European politicians, European ONG, to the idea that it is really important to escape, to go through the carbon neutrality, to try to fix really the energy community and the PPAs as a real model for the future. So I think that we got the goal. So the challenge was really taken by Fondazione and the European Liberal Forum, who was really happy to follow us in this project. And I would like also to say that the project was a long path, because we had some workshop to prepare our publication. So it is like a community. So we worked really happily together. So it was a real community, a real energy community, what we established. Thank you.
Thanks very much to both of you. I see there are already some questions from journalists, so I would give them the floor immediately. I have a question written by Maria Elena Rivezzo of the press agency GEA. It's an Italian press agency specialized on energy, actually. Of course, journalists go directly to the current affairs. Current affairs now are in Israel, so they ask us how can the tension in Israel and Gaza after war in Ukraine, after European energy policies? I think is a question.
Well, I would say that following the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, following the invasion of Russia, Ukraine, the geopolitical arena became even more complicated. So there are alliances which are changing really overnight. This will not much depend too much, from the direct impact on Israel on energy prices, since, we are not importing gas from Israel and any other kind of commodity, but it will depend more about how Russia and China will actually take part to this, to the conflict, in the sense, what could be then, the equilibrium between China, Russia, and the Western world, because, for us, the most important partner still is Russia, from which, nobody knows, but, we will not import anymore, as we know, gas from pipelines, but still, LNG from Russia continues to flow to Europe, and it's not a negligible part. And on the other side, China will play a very important role concerning critical materials, since, it's the monopolist with about 87%, of the production of these critical raw materials, which are essential for energy transition, because they are necessary to build actually renewable power plants, batteries, and so on. So there will be not a direct impact, but the impact will be indirect, according to how the different alliances on the geopolitical arena will take place.
Also because we saw how politics and international politics and energy are so interconnected lately after the invasion of Ukraine.
Yes.
Maria Elena, I hope you got your answer. If you want to follow up, you can write in the chat, of course. We have now another question by Gianluca Martucci for Agenzia Europa.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Gianluca.
Good morning. Thank you for the floor, Gianluca Martucci, Agenzia Europa. My question is, how do you see the Italian trend compared to the trends showed by the other countries? And what do we need to do more in this sense? And is still there some space for good cooperation and efficient cooperation between the public and the private sectors? Thank you so much.
Sorry, I did miss in the first part of the question. So are you asking, how we do compare in terms of transition process?
No, how do you see the trend between the difference between the Italian trend and the trends of the other countries?
Okay. Sorry?
The comparison.
Yes, okay. Yes, you mean with respect to the topics addressed by the publication. Well, so I have to say that with respect to PPAs, Spain and Portugal are the leading countries in terms of, capacity contracted under PPAs. But, despite that, Italy might represent a best practice, especially following the recent 2 years ago implementation of the EU Renewable Directive. Since actually we established the platform to allow the matching between demand and supply of PPAs, and it's going to be quite an unicum in Europe. And this is a very important measure. But beyond PPAs, the very hot topic to promote actually renewable generation is to actually speed up the permitting procedures of energy infrastructure. So you can, push I mean, how much as you want. I mean, PPA is a long-term contracting, but if it takes too much for you to set up, I mean, a new power plant, because I mean the permitting procedures is very cumbersome, inefficient, and so on. I mean, it's totally unusable. And the second topic for the promotion of renewable projects, in addition to the permitting procedure, is the social acceptance. During the energy crisis, we saw actually that citizens all around Europe, and especially in Italy, opposed the development of new infrastructure which were actually necessary for actually energy security, both, I mean, renewable energy infrastructures as well as, I mean, gas infrastructure. So to me, those are the main issues to be addressed. With respect to renewable energy communities, Italy represents the best practice, together with Denmark and Germany, which have a long history of energy communities developed by citizens, but for many historical reasons. But we were really timely in implementing the EU directive, and we were really timely in putting in place, I mean, incentive schemes to promote these energy communities, so that today there are many utilities which are working on pilots concerning communities and are starting developing new energy communities.
So we cannot complain as an Italian. So in this respect, we are not so bad.
Yes, of course.
And I think that you already maybe answered partially in that sense the collaboration between private and public sector. This is something I think that Gianluca also asked.
Yes, sorry, yes, I missed that point. Well, I mean, it's very important, and in this respect, actually, we could be considered a kind of best practice, since tomorrow we will hold a conference at the Senate, and among the speakers there will be the president of the Gestore dei Servizi Energetici, which is the public entity in Italy managing incentives for energy efficiencies and renewable, and actually there is usually, since many years ago, I mean, the role of the public in promoting renewables energy projects, and today, energy communities, a PPA, it's very important, not only by means of incentives, which of course are important, but also with very concrete, with very operative tools, like, for example, the mapping of these energy communities, the mapping of where actually renewable generation has much more potential, by actually creating the one-stop shop procedure. So, still, of course, there is room of improvements, but it's an important cornerstone.
Okay, thanks, Gianluca Martucci. I hope you got your answer. Now I see a question from Monica Sciglia. It's another Italian press agency, Italpress, that wrote us in the chat: what would be the social advantages of energy communities for people, and what would be the advantages for the employment? Are two aspects that sometimes don't go like hand in hand, but in this case, Simona?
Yes, well, there are two separate topics. So I don't believe that energy communities could be by themselves, how can I say, an enabling factor for employment. But more in general, energy transition should be actually an enabling factor. So one of the points that Europe, in my opinion, missed, over these years is that while, the decarbonization targets were increasing, we lost actually to think about what should have been the industrial model, underpinning these transitions, and so which kind of competencies do we need? And the results was that actually we made the transitions with solar panels and other technologies made abroad. And this, of course, made people even more skeptical in accepting the energy infrastructure, because they only see the cost of this without seeing the benefits. Not only because, there were not actually external spillovers on the industrial sectors and, how can I say, the educational framework and so on, but also because the transition was and still is very costly for people. So they only see, that their energy bills are increasing without seeing direct benefits, because of course, there is not direct benefits perceived in the improvement of the quality of the environment, and especially the transition will bring real benefits over the long term for future generation. With respect instead, to the benefits for local communities, I see that there could be many, and that could be mostly actually, of course, economic benefits, because I mean, from self-production of electricity, you have the chance to save, of course, something from your energy bills, but at the same time, it's mostly a kind of soft effects, in the sense that, I mean, you disseminate the benefits, so you make kind of moral suasion on people, and you improve the social acceptance of energy infrastructure, as I said. So this is essentially the benefits that I see among energy communities.
Renato, of course, if you want to add anything to the answer, you are always welcome to intervene. I would have a lot of questions to ask Simona, but I don't want to waste the time of our journalists, because I know that many of them are very busy.
Of course.
But in case you want to add something, please go.
Yes, no, I mean, the idea is that, I mean, Simona's idea is it's quite clear. I mean, the benefit for the employment would be like on a whole average. So, I mean, it's not specific, but I mean, it's quite a general improvement for individual and social life, I guess, if I got the point.
Okay, thanks, Renata. I see in the chat Irene Muraka of FLE.eu. Can you hear us? We don't.
Yeah, hello. Hi.
Great.
Can you hear me? Irene,
Yes,
for FLE.eu. I have a question on the role of PPAs and energy sharing mechanism in the agreement on the electricity market reform. I want to know what is your vision on the agreement, and how for you it should be implemented.
Well, thank you very much for this question. I will say that all the questions were really interesting, but so what is my opinion on the proposed reform? So on the political side, I mean, I am, how can I say, I was very surprised, in the sense that, I mean, this reform came really late, and probably, I mean, the main message of this reform is that, I mean, whatever we did over the last 10 years was wrong. So we built the European Union with the idea to build a competitive and liberalized internal energy markets, and we are ending up with actually cutting the pieces of the markets open to competition. So because this reform essentially put a lot of interventionism, a lot of control on prices, a lot of control on the decisions of market actors, and so it's really a U-turn, which to me it's really impressive. So of course, I mean, the energy crisis represented actually a very important turning point, but at the same time, I mean, the U-turn of the European Commission about what should be and what were actually the funding principles of the Union itself, I mean, it's really surprising. On the other side, from a mostly technical economic point of view, so there are some parts of the reform that I do not agree, especially those concerning the electricity retail. Sorry, just a sorry, there is a little bit of a noise in the room, so. And so from the technical point of view, there are part of the, how can I say, of the reform that they do not agree with, that I do not agree with, and this essentially concern the retail electricity markets, where there is a lot of state interventionism, which limits a lot, I mean, the free market action of retailers, and this is totally damaging for the good competition and the good functioning of the market with all, I mean, the benefits that competition can bring. On the other side, I saw positive aspects, especially with respect to PPAs, since finally they understood that without, a proper state intervention solving some market failures, there could not be, an appropriate liquid market for PPA. And on the other side, finally, there are strong measures enabling the participation of end customers to electricity markets. So all the part concerning the contribution of demand to the achievement of some flexibility services targets, to me, it's a very important step also from an ideological point of view, since, and now I'm concluding my comment, my reply, because since, the launch of the Energy Union, we talk about the citizens at the center of the transition, but still we never saw the citizens and these enterprise at the center. Now, maybe, in the light of this new push, there could be some important news on this.
Well, you can see our Simona is really well prepared on this topic. And Simona, I have another very technical question here from Agence Europe. They used to be very into the dossier. So Pauline Denis, I hope I pronounce well your surname, Pauline, ask you if you think that the way the EMD reform is designed. EMD. So the
EMD. Okay, yeah. I understood the EPBD.
Yeah,
okay.
I'm sorry. It's my
no.
it's my Italian English, unfortunately. She asked if this reform, how this reform is designed, still under discussion, of course, takes full advantage of the PPAs, is a good signal sent to the investors across the EU. And Pauline says also that I pronounced right her surname.
And sorry?
No, she said that I pronounced well her surname. So
okay.
This is a good question, a good point.
Well, so what I think about the reform, so already sharing in the previous, actually, in answering the previous question. So PPAs got a lot of emphasis in this reform, since, once again, the proposal stresses that member states should actually remove the barriers for the development of PPAs. But this was actually a statement already present in the first version of the EMID, as well as of the Renewable Directive. But the novelty in the proposal is that, the European Commission and then the Council, who approved the proposal of reform, says that member states can adopt actually state guarantees to promote PPAs. And this is very important, since, some member states like Norway and actually Spain already put in place mechanisms like this, because, the main obstacle to the promotion of PPA is actually the perceived risk by developers that, the buyers can default. So, because I sign a contract which has a duration of 5, 10 years, 15 years, and so what happens if my counterparty got defaulted? Who will buy my the energy that I was committed to do deliver? And this is very important. On the other side, there is the pathological aspect of the state interventionism, since, PPAs are suggested as the recommended tool to member states to be adopted by retailers to hedge against the price risk. And so this is not mandatory. What it is mandatory for member states is to adopt entities which monitor the ability of retailers to hedge against price risk. But this is totally crazy, because, every retailer has its own characteristics, and of course, it will have its own actually strategy, and so it's very difficult to set a standard to which, monitor, the best practices or the bad practices. But overall, PPAs can only be one tool to hedge against the price risk. It's kind of a mix that, of course, is the result of different views. But, and I would like to stress this point that to me it's very important. So we are considering this market reform as, the reform of the century, but as you know better than me, so in April we will have another political majority probably, and so maybe they will have another view. So it's kind of untimely, I would say, reform that, I don't know, maybe put more uncertainties than certainties on the table.
Thanks, Simona. Paulina, I hope you got what you were looking for. Now we have a question from Vincenzo Giardina of the Dire Price Agency. Do you have lessons, best practices coming to the EU from other areas of the world with regard to renewable energy communities? So there's another part in the world where we can learn from. This, I think, is what Vincenzo is asking.
Well, so I would say that in this respect, actually, California represents the best practices. And it's not a case in the sense that California has an electricity generation mix which is mostly composed by renewables, and so there were many experiences concerning energy communities, but it is impossible to make an efficient comparison, a meaningful comparison, because the two markets are totally different. They are different in terms of history, in terms of governance, in terms of actually, of course, incentive mechanism to be built. But so it's, I'm beyond California, so I didn't know actually experience award to be mentioned. Consider that, the diffusion of energy communities.
Sorry if I jump in. In China, there's something interesting about that. They are investing a lot on other form of.
I'm not sure. So I think that in China is going to be quite difficult in the sense, the state has so much control that. So I don't know actually. So I don't want to say in exactness because I don't know very much. How in China it works. But what can I say that of course in Denmark and in Germany we have. A widespread diffusion of energy communities, but the main reason for which there is such large diffusion as an historical reason, since the Industrial Revolution in these countries there were on one side the diffusion of cooperatives also to manage utilities, so cooperatives, legal entity were very widespread, and on the other side, there were already a governance, of the country which was already very local, so this actually speed up the diffusion of energy communities.
Thanks, Simona, for that. As I said, I would have many questions to ask you yourself. I see there are no other questions coming from the remote journalists, so I will take the chance to ask you a question. Then, if anyone connected remotely want to add something or a follow-up, take your time and please go for it. In a few minutes, the remote press conference will be done. My question is, because Simona, your studies actually demonstrate how much these two practices can do for the environment, for the energy market, and for the employment as well. In the same time, in the last weeks or month, the Green Deal as a whole, as a European package, has been strongly criticized, even from some industrial entrepreneurship sector in Italy. The previous commissioner responsible for the Green Deal, Franz Timmermans, now he quit the European Commission, but was strongly criticized. Without turning into politics, what's your take? Why do you think there's a part of the industrial world that is so against this new Green Deal as a whole, even if there are some concrete examples and huge companies that are investing so much in practice like those?
Yes, thank you for this question. So, well, the motivation is that, as I said before, actually, we shared very ambitious renewable targets and decarbonization targets in general, and we made these actually goals and targets even more challenging over the years. So we were at 32% of penetration of renewable energy on total final consumption in 2030. Now we are at 42.5%, and so what else? In 3 years we will put 50% and so on. So energy transition is not a free lunch. This is the problem. So energy transition has a cost, and this cost actually has been mostly borne by end customers, including industrial customers. So if you do a comparison among energy prices across the European Union, Italy is one of the countries with the highest cost of energy for final customers, and most of these costs came from actually the taxes and incentives that we put, on the energy bills to support, renewable generation, which is fine in the sense that those technologies suffer from actually negative externalities, in the sense that they are at the beginning of their development, are not commercially mature, so they need to be supported. But at the same time, as I said before, if you don't have a positive spillover in terms of economic growth, and so before in terms of competencies and productivity, it is very difficult for people and enterprises to see actually what could be the benefit. Secondly, the other motivation for these contents is that, of course, you see that energy has an increasing cost on industrial processes, so it has an impact on the competitiveness. And at the same time, Europe did not act in a compact way to support the competitiveness of the EU. So while the United States put in place the Inflationary Reaction Act, China put a lot of money on the table to foster energy transition. What Europe did was just to, soften the rules on state aids, which is just, a measure, legislative measure, but this doesn't mean to have money. And so, of course, there are some member states which lags behind because they don't have, the proper budget to support industry. So, yes, I think that, there was too much ideology and too little of actually pragmatism in.
Also, because also in this matter, I see that we have, can we say, two Europes? So, like in Europe, which is faster, you talk about Germany, yes. Denmark, in going to that direction. Another Europe who is, I cannot say lacking behind, but so it's hard to have a common.
Yes. And for many reasons, in the sense that, of course, there are some part of European member states which suffer from political instability, and when you have a lot of political instability, it's very difficult to implement reform and policies. Then there are some other member states which, like Italy, don't have, a very, they have too much, where, the public debt, it's, a lot of space on the balance of the state, so it's not easy to find the money to promote actually this kind of pattern. But, if we would like to be the continent as Europe, which actually would like to guide the world in the energy transition, which we should have as a leader, someone which follow us, and I don't see anyone which is following us. And the motivation is that, we lost pieces over these long patterns because, for example, we forgot that energy security cannot be disregarded, especially when you go in a scenario with a lot of renewables and non-programmable renewables. So, the energy crisis just was for us a very strong wake up to say, okay, we are not, so energy independent, but now it's too late. And so we cannot guide anyone because we are strongly dependent from China on transition and still now from the United States for gas. So
there are some experts that say that we should have started 20 years ago.
Yes, but I'm an optimistic person. So as we say in Italy, better late than never. So it's important at least to make this reflection and to stop to ignore that there is an elephant in the room that we should address.
Okay, thanks very much, Simona. I don't see other questions from our colleagues, so I think we could end our press conference. Renata, do you want to add something?
Yes, let me just ask you to promote our session, and if you'd like, I would send you, or Alessio would send you the two publication in PDF. So we have the web version of the two publications. So in waiting for giving you personally, you can have our web version, because I mean the idea is to spread as possible, as much as possible. So I mean I'm asking you to help us to promote our important publication. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Renata. Thanks, Simona, for your full answers. And thanks to all the colleagues that found the time to attend this session. Thanks very much, and goodbye, we can say.